Hello everyone, today I would like to introduce your costing method on Smartbooks accounting software. In Smartbooks we have 5 method, DOM, simple, selling price, coefficient and phased. Method 1, BOM. Step 1. Setting up the norms table for each product. What are the materials making the A product? How much quantity of each material do a product needed to make? Each product can use from 1-100 materials, can be customized if the number of materials is more than 100. Materials can set up according to kg, PCS, meter, bottles, depending on each type of product. In this step, when setting up on Smartbook, we'll create the registration section for norm of each product and create Excel file to import in cases where the company has a lot of the product code. Step 2. Summary of finished goods import to the warehouse during the period. In this step, input the data into the Smartbooks on the finished goods import voucher. Step 3. Summary of work in progress and convert to finished goods. The software will create a separate section for importing unfinished goods and completion rate and set up the formula to convert it from unfinished goods into equivalent finished goods. Step 4. Summary of output materials in practice by product code. This step is quite similar to the step of setting up materials for each specific product code, because this data is the actual output materials of customer. Smartbooks can be imported from Excel with many finished goods. Click to Get button and get data total raw material, labor and overhead cost from accounting data. Summary working process at closing balance and opening balance. The formula of the manufacturing process, working process at the beginning of the period plus the product manufacturing during the period equals finished goods plus working process at the ending of the period. So products manufactured during the period equals finished goods plus working process at the ending of the period, working process at the beginning of the period. Step 5. Compare the difference between the output materials in actual and the norm of materials. After obtaining the quantity of output material in actual and output warehouse according to the norm. This step needs to determine the difference in the quantity of materials between the actual and norm. Case 1. Output material and actual material according to the norm. The difference will be recorded in the cost of goods sold. Case 2. Output material and actual the norms, revise BOM. Step 6. Choose Update and Calculate software will automatic calculating number of product which was produced in the period. Allocate material cost, labor cost and overhead for each product, calculate unit price. Calculate working process at closing balance for next period. Choose Save and Finish for end process. Method 2, Simple. This method is applied in enterprises of simple production form. The number of items are not much, produced in large quantities in short production cycles such as power plants, water, mining enterprises, or coal, wood. Cost accounting subject is each product and service. Step 1. Summary of finished goods manufacturing during the period, same as BOM. In this step, just input the data into the Smartbooks on the finished goods warehouse receipt. Step 2. Summary of working process and convert to finished goods, same as BOM. Click to Get button and get data total raw material, labor and overhead cost from accounting data. Step 3. Calculate the number of products manufacturing during the period. Step 4. Calculate the costing for products. Choose Update and Calculate. This step is the allocation of direct material costs, labor costs, and manufacturing overhead costs to each product according to the total of products which manufactured. This step is simply taking the total expenses divided the total product and multiplied the number of products of each type. Choose Save and Finish for end process. Method 3, Selling Price. Step 1, Summary selling price for each product. In this step, declaring the selling price for each finished good code. Step 2, Total quantity of finished goods input warehouse during the period, same as BOM. Step 3, Summary of working process and convert to finished goods, same as BOM. Click to Get button and get data total raw material, labor and overhead cost from accounting data. Step 4. Calculate the number of products manufacturing during the period. Step 5. Calculate the costing for products according to the selling price percentage. This step of allocating direct material costs, labor costs and manufacturing overhead costs to each product according to the selling price. Unit price equals opening balance amount plus manufacturing expense in this period / quantity opening balance equivalent plus quantity finished goods equivalent in this period. Step 6. Calculate the value of unfinished goods ending period. Working process equals unit finished goods price * finished goods equivalent. Choose Save and Finish for end process. Method 4, Coefficient. Applying for the enterprise which in the production process used the same material and same labor but produced a lot of different kinds of products, and the cost is not calculated for each kind of product and calculated for the whole of production process. Therefore, to determine the cost for each kind of main product, we need to convert the different main products into one main product, called standard product according to the conversion ratio was set up. The product has coefficient is 1 will be selected as the standard product. Step 1. Choose one product as a standard product. The coefficient method will be applied to enterprises that is only manufacturing of identical products, only size different. At this step, Smartbooks will set up an initial product coefficient declaration table for users to declare. Step 2. Total quantity of finished goods input warehouse during the period, same as BOM. Step 3. Summary of working process and convert to finished goods, same as BOM. Click to Get button and get data total raw material, labor and overhead cost from accounting data. Step 4. Calculate the number of products manufacturing during the period. Step 5. Choose Update and calculate. Convert the products manufactured during the period to standard products based on the ratio which was determined in Step 1. Step 6. Calculate costing of the standard products. When calculation costing for the standard product, it is noted that in this case, the value of unfinished goods at the beginning of the period as well as the quantity of unfinished goods at the beginning of the period will be added to calculate the average unit price for the standard product. The value of unfinished goods at the beginning of the period plus incurred expenses in the period / the number of products in the period plus the number of unfinished goods at the beginning of the period. Step 7. Recalculate the costing for each type of the product. Use the costing of standard product calculated in Step 6 and the standard product ratio converted in Step 1. Smartbooks will set up the costing recalculation table for each type of product. Step 8. Calculate the value of unfinished goods at ending period. Choose Save and Finish for end process. Method 5, Phased. Calculating costing procedure based on phased method. Part 1, set up costing by cost center, by phased and by group product. Step 1, create cost center and set up allocate expense. From main menu choose General Setting Information. Cost ID. Cost Center ID. cost center name, cost group, 621 raw material, 622 labor cost, and 627 overhead cost. Setup allocate expense. Phase ID setup expense for each phase. Phase should be 1, 2, 3, etc., or all of phase. Cost method ID is method allocate expense for each group product. Option 1, allocate direct product. Option 2, allocate by rate. Allocation method ID, only use when user choose cost method ID is option 2. Option 1, allocate expense by quantity product multiplication rate. Rate can be get from selling price, coefficient or simple method, etc. Option 2, allocate labor cost and overhead by raw material. Allocation phase ID is method allocate expense for each phase only use when user choose phase ID is all. Option 1, allocate expense for each phase by same rate. Option 2, allocate expense for each phase, for each cost center by different rate. Step 2, setup rate allocate expense for each phase. Firstly, expense after summary and period will be allocate for each phase to follow this rate. Allocation phase ID, default is option 1, use for all cost center ID. Phase ID, phase number. Rate for each phase ID. From date to date, time to apply. Step 3, setup rate for each group product. Applied when allocate expense by quantity multiplication rate. Cost method ID equals 2, allocation method ID equals 1. Firstly, expense after summary will be allocate for each phase, second will be allocate for each group. Setup, group ID. Rate, if evenly distributed by quantity should be choose 1 for all group ID. Phase ID. From date to date, time to apply. Step 4, setup rate for each product. Applied when allocate expense by quantity multiplication rate, cost method ID equals 2, allocation method ID equals 1. Firstly, expense after summary will be allocate for each phase, second will be allocate for each group, third will be allocate for each product. Setup, product ID, rate by coefficient, selling price or simple method. Phase ID. From date to date, time to apply. Part 2, costing. 1. Input quantity work in progress closing balance and rate equivalent. From inventory config menu choose calculator quantity 154 for each product. Product ID, work in progress closing balance. 154 quantity of work in progress closing balance. 621 rate, 622 rate, 627 rate, rate equivalent for each group expense 621, 622, 627, 154 and AMT, amount of work in progress will be automatic update after costing finish. 621 and AMT, 622 and AMT, 627 and AMT, amount of each group expense 621, 622, 627 also automatic update after costing finish. From date to date, time to apply. Two, costing. Step 1.1, calculate quantity finished good input and work in progress. Product ID, finished good ID, quantity of finished goods, quantity of work in progress closing balance, input before costing. Quantity working in progress 621 quantity, 622 quantity, 627 quantity equals 154 quantity asterisk 621 rate, 622 rate, 627 rate. From date to date, time apply. Group ID, Phase ID. Step 1.2. Calculate total quantity finished goods for each group. Based on quantity finished goods from Step 1.1, we can calculate total quantity finished goods in period for each group. A group finished goods group 621, 622, 627 total good quantity. From date to date, time apply. Phase ID. Step 2. Summary total expense in period by cost center. When user inputs 621,622,627 must choose cost center. Expense will be input from inventory and general ledger. Cost center ID. Cost method ID. Phase ID. Allocation method ID. Get from config allocation expense when user setup cost center. Allocation method ID. Method allocation when cost method ID equals 2. Amount. Total expense amount in period. Product ID. Direct expense for product when cost method ID equals 1. Phase ID. Choose phase number for next period. Step 3. For allocate cost center which config follow rate quantity and coefficient. Cost method ID equals 2, allocation method ID equals 1. For cost center is specific identification, cost method ID equals 1, and expense allocate by raw material, allocation method ID equals 1, will be calculated in step 5. Step 3. Calculate expense allocate for group product in phased. Expense will be summary from step 2 for config cost method ID equals 2 and allocation method ID equals 1. If phased ID is number, total expense will be allocate all for this phased. If phased ID is all, expense equals total expense asterisk rate allocate by phased, costing rate allocate group. Expense summary by cost center will be allocate for each product group in phased by quantity and rate. Result in column group amount. Cost group ID, group expense 621, 622, 627. Cost center ID, group ID, product group. Is costing, expense will be allocate for product group or not? 1 is yes, 0 is no. Total good quantity, quantity product finish in period by group product from step 1.2. Cost group ID equals 621. Get data from 621. Total good quantity cost group ID equals 622. Get data from 622. Total good quantity. Cost group ID equals 627. Get data from 627. Tot good quantity. Group rate, costing rate allocation group. Group quantity equals total good quantity asterisk group rate for each cost center ID. Cost center amount, total expense summary by cost center ID of phased. Cost center rate, rate expense for product group. Group amount is total expense allocate for each product group, for each cost center. Can be used for step 4. Phase ID, phased for costing. Allocation method ID, allocate method get from config, always is 1. Step 4, allocate expense for each product. From total expense for each product group in step 3, we can allocate expense for each product. Result will available in column product amount. Cost center ID, group ID, product group. Group amount, total expense for each product group. Product ID, product in period. Total good quantity, total quantity product in period equals quantity input plus quantity working in progress. Product rate, rate allocate for each product. Is costing, allocate for this product or not? Default is 1. Total product amount equals total good quantity multiplication product rate for each product group. Rate allocate expense for each product. Product amount, expense allocate for each product. Step 5. Costing finished goods, total expense for each product including work in progress opening balance, expense in period. Expense in period including expense identification, expense allocate by raw material, product amount from step 4. Costing product equals total expense division total quantity in period. Product ID quantity finished goods from step 1.1. Begin amount, work in progress opening balance get from last period. Amount 621, 622, 627 identification, expense identification in period by group 621,622,627. Get from step 2, for each cost center have cost method Idaho equals 1. Amount 621, 622, 627, expense in period get from step 4 for each group 621, 622, 627 and expense allocate by raw material. Total amount equals begin amount, summary expense work in progress opening balance, plus amount 621, 622, 627 identification plus amount 621, 622, 627. Unit price, costing of product equals total amount division quantity. And AMT, work in progress closing balance equals unit price asterisk work in progress quantity. After click Save, costing after calculating unit price column will be updated into all finished goods receipt entry. Work in progress closing balance will be updated into work in progress table. Step 6. Calculate price out by average method for cost of goods sold or price out on next phased. Product ID, item name, product name. Begin balance quantity. Begin balance amount. Quantity input in period. Amount input in period. Price out. Need update expense in step 2 before calculate costing for next phased.